Joe Granger will do the benediction, please, for us.
Today, this opportunity to come together and meet in your name. We are your work in progress. What we do through your hands, Father. We lift up praises to you for the food that was provided today. We thank you for getting us all here safely today. We ask that you get us back home safely. We pray all these things in your name. Amen.
Hey, Richard. Come on, Richard, get in line first, okay?
No, I don't think there's somewhere. Where's Charlie?
These are the old Osler class.
I didn't get help.
Going fast. All right, thank you. You betcha.
I'm just checking the things.
I don't see any, but
It's on the side.
You guys back up a little wee bit. Here, Rich. Richie, come this way.
Right hand on the in front.
no. Well, I'm reading what's in it. Yep.
Sure.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Want more?
Yes.
Don't
That's
blame
good.
I just came by here to vote y'all on the floor. Any questions, you raise your hand and your answer.
All rise.
We dedicate this meeting of our brothers still on patrol to perpetuate the memory of our shipmates who gave their lives in the pursuit of duties while serving their country, that their dedication and deeds and supreme sacrifice may be constant source of motivation toward greater accomplishment, and to pledge loyalty and patriotism to the United States of America and its Constitution.
Pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. First of all, I'd like to welcome back our membership chairman, Rich Geyer. He has been indisposed medically for quite some time now. It is great to have him back with us. Rich, welcome back. As I mentioned earlier, our chaplain, Bill Ogburn, who is also the storekeeper, is unfortunately having to do a field service today on his sister-in-law over in Bartow, so he is not able to make it. And I thank Joel for filling in for him. For guests, we have a gentleman here who came down from New York. He's a John Kelly is one. John is a retired fireman, New York fireman, and he's with the Pocono base. He's down in the area visiting, so he found us.
6 months up, 6 months down. I should hang out with you guys for 6 months, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thanks for the warming.
That's what they told me up there.
Get with Rich to figure out how, become a member down here too. Also, we have Bob Backman, who is a dual member of Tang base. He is the new Long Island base commander. Welcome down, Bob. I'd like to recognize our past commanders who are in attendance. If you were not here in January, I read the complete list of past commanders, beginning with the first one all the way through to the present. Past commander talked about their time that they served. It's significant to point out that we would not be here doing what we're doing today had it not been for these past commanders doing the job that they did. It's very important to recognize them. Al Almack, past commander. Tom Donut, past commander, Tang Base. John Raines, immediate past commander, Tang Base. And Michael Caller, who is a Tang Base member, but is past commander from LA Pasadena Base. And Area 51, Las Vegas, right?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Did I miss any guests? Anybody? We've got a couple of guys who came back we haven't seen in a while. Tony Glade, Mike Snare, the traveling duo from down Sarasota way. Glad you could take time off the course, golf course to come up and do this.
Anything for you, Bob.
I appreciate it.
That's not true, I had to rip him off.
Okay.
Took my wallet.
As you may not know, or may know, we stopped doing the binnacle list by name, but we still want to continue with the cards. So if you know of someone who you think should be on the binnacle list, let us know. Normally you'd let the chaplain know, and because he does the cards. But if not, just let one of us know and we'll get the word to him. Okay. All rise, uncover.
Where ships may ride at anchor for a little space, and then some starless night the cable slips, leaving only an eddy in the mooring place. Gulls veer no longer, sailor rest your oar, no tangled wreckers will be washed ashore. Lord, our departed shipmates with dolphins on their chests are part of an outfit known as the best. You will let them know that we who survive will always keep their memories alive.
USS Shark, SS 174.
Go to the next one.
USS Amberjack, SS 219. USS Grayback, SS 208. USS Trout, SS 202. USS Barbell, SS 316.
Ring the bell one more time for our shipmates still on patrol. Thank you.
Be seated.
Meeting in this place on the 16th, no, the 19th of March. April and May will be, April will be at the Veterans Park over in Tampa, having our annual memorial service. And in May we'll have our semi-annual picnic out at the beach. Just to remind people, Roland Creaser's interment will be Friday the 4th of March at 10 o'clock at the Bay Plains National Cemetery. Wear your best if we encourage that part. Memorial service for Alan Holton will be on Thursday the 24th of March at 11:45 at Northside Baptist Church in St. Petersburg.
Okay, at this point, we normally continue with reports and all, but we forego that because today is a social meeting. So to begin the social meeting, I'm going to ask Rick Cano to come up, and he's going to give us a test, actually 2 tests. So we got to complete the test, and then we'll go on after that. During your time in the service that is memorable to you, good or bad, or we'd like to talk about what you did after the service. We know about your service time, but let's get involved and talk about your after service.
So, the test I'm handing out is easy. However, it was inspired, I'm part of a Veterans Club group up in my neighborhood and started out with military trivia. So I had to look up submarine trivia. And so there are 2 quizzes. One's really simple, one's a little more difficult. All of which is probably for you gentlemen laughable, and that's where we're at in the social world. So I have some extremely competent assistants. and pass them out with pencils at hand. Are you spreading it around, and then really go answer your questions. We'll give you 3 minutes or 4 minutes. It's not tough.
3 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, now we'll give them one.
One. You're one.
We're gonna give everyone one, and everybody, they're gonna have 2 sheets apiece.
You only got 2 minutes left.
Front and back.
Time's up.
Lose the clock.
Quiz 1. This is quiz 2. And that's a fast number. Quiz 2. Eddie's got quiz 1. Quiz 1 and quiz 2. Eddie, we have another.
Yeah, truest.
1 and 2.
That's what happened, first one, 2.
This will come. You can't get one. I was told that this is equivalent to a first class test.
I'm the only one who brought a pen. Come on.
Oh, you're not.
Okay, it's 2 of us.
I have some golf pencils.
I don't.
You got 2 of them?
Not prejudiced, but they work.
Do you have a left-handed pencil?
I do. I left it in the car.
Stick paper.
Stick them together. Everybody got 2?
Nope.
Such simple questions, I didn't mean, well, anyway. Answer, number 1 quiz, answer obviously is submarine. The bathysphere is not considered a ship as it has no means of propulsion. In 2000, recovered off the Carolina coast was the Hunley. It was so well preserved that researchers were able to dismantle the parts of it with wrenches. The first nuclear-powered submarine was the Nautilus. Of course, she was the second Nautilus. The first was before World War II. Her hull number was SS-168. First Nautilus. What year did submarines introduce rotating periscopes? 1902 on the USS Seal, designed by Simon Lake. Obviously, the next question is boomers. USS Triton made a submerged voyage around the world. How many days? There's a Triton vet here. Where's the Triton vet? How many days?
I don't know, but I was waiting on the Orion for it to come back.
83. I'm sorry, the next question is ballistic. SS is the code for sub, sorry. What type of missiles were first launched? Polaris. Range was 1,200 miles. On a missile-carrying submarine, its nickname is given to the missile room is, of course, Sherwood. Of course, normally painted green.
And I'm not.
Okay, number 2. Again, it's Nautilus. She was launched in January of '54. Who was the sponsor of the Nautilus? Remember? Who hit the...
Mamie Eisenhower.
Right. And standing next to Mamie was Ned Beach, who was then the presidential assistant. How many were in the skate class? 4. USS Skate, Swordfish, Sargo, and Sea Dragon.
Yay, Sea Dragon.
Hey. Code name was November. nuclear-powered anti-ship submarines. The Tango class of diesel-electric Soviet Navy, what was their displacement? 3,100 surface, 3,800 submerged. What was the name of the conventional submarine class from the Royal Navy? Upholder. It was briefly in service in the 1990s, and their eventually class was sold outright to the Canadian Navy. I'm sorry, what was a very potent SSGN from the Tampa class? The speed was 42 knots. The displacement of 5,200. This boat was also carried the Siren ship missile. The name that was given to the U.S. Royal Class SNs was the Astute class. Name of the fourth generation ballistic missiles for the Russian Navy was the Bory class. What was the submarine class for the world's largest? It was the Typhoon class. And the name of the submarine that first circumnavigated, of course, is the Trident. Thank you.
Fantastic, thank you.
Any 100%ers here? Oh, well. There's a few of those open-ended questions that are tough. Keep the pencils, or you can throw them back up here, no problem.
Okay, into the second part. How would we like to talk about either an event that happened while you were in, or what you did after you got out of the Navy?
Got out.
Art Jorgensen. Art served with me up in SSEP in Groton back in the late 80s. He was our lead photographer. Had two other photographers. One was a female warehouse
Yeah, that was,
imaging in the imaging shop there in Seth.
oh heck.
I know. I'm having the same problem trying to remember.
Pass these couple of packets out, if you pass them down. I'm going to talk about my Airedale part of the Navy for a short while, because I got a sea story that goes with all this stuff. One of the best reconnaissance birds I feel the Navy ever had was the RA-5C Vigilante. It was made by North American Aviation. We called it North American Novelty Company. It first flew in 1958. It was Mach 2.1 and fly-by-wire, and fly-by-wire is the big deal nowadays. And it also set an altitude and speed record that held for 13 years. It went to 91,849 feet, which is 17.4 miles up. It was a fantastic, it was designed as a bomber. It didn't work worth a damn as a bomber. The bomb bay was between the two engines, and it was gonna shit the weapon out the back end in a loft maneuver. The only problem is the weapon followed the airplane because of the turbulence created by the two engines. So they had this big beast, they didn't know what to do with it. They said, let's put a bunch of recon equipment on it. The second page in here shows some of the photo pods that we had on the aircraft. We had a forward-looking camera, a vertical camera, and a module assembly that we cranked in and out of the aircraft with a bomb hoist that could be configured with different cameras at different depression angles and focal lengths. We also had electronic flashers on the wings because this was like a modern airplane. Funny thing about the flashers though, when we launched the bird at night, they'd make a pass over the carrier to test the flashers out, and they worked fine. The minute they got feet dry, they didn't work for some reason. Because we lost 18 birds in Vietnam because the Vietnamese got smart. They realized that the flashers were attached to the airplane, and between those flashes, because they were in a set speed,
they could predict where the bird was and they'd shoot him down. Prior aircraft used photo flash cartridges and flash bombs, which were trailed behind the aircraft, so they couldn't quite know where it was. And miraculously, once the bird got feet wet again, they'd work for some strange reason. So we never had to really fix the flashers. We just had to hang the damn things on the wings all the time. Next picture in there is yours truly when he had hair, working on a camera in the Vigilante. And the next picture is, again, with that's the camera guys sitting on a chain hoist. This was an 18-inch panoramic camera, took horizon to horizon photographs on 2,500 feet of 5-inch film. Each scan was 44 inches long. This is one scan, went from the horizon, 5 degrees above the horizon, to 12 degrees the other side of Nadir, and Nadir is directly below the aircraft. 2 scans, 88 inches total, would be horizon to horizon in this aircraft. It could take a picture of a Marlboro package, cigarettes, and you could read Marlboro from 60,000 feet, which is 11 and a half miles. So it was a fantastic airplane. The only problem with it is the prisms on the front were heated when it was manufactured. So to get the optimum resolution out of it, we had to, once again, heat it. So we had to get it on the flight deck, install it in the airplane, and put a power cable to the aircraft for 12 hours. And trying to monopolize a power cable on the flight deck for 12 hours, we had a couple of fist fights involved with the whole damn thing. The last picture in the packet going around is the module dolly that we use to transport these camera modules from the shop to the flight deck. Now, our shop was on the O2 level. If you're not familiar with aircraft carriers, the flight deck is O4. The hangar bay is the first deck. So we had access to the aircraft elevators. We'd call for an O2 run about O2 in the morning to get everything up to the flight deck to configure for the morning's flights. Well, one night we had 2 modules to come out, and they're both sitting in this yellow gear. We got an O2 run. We got one module out on the elevator, got it chained down, went back into the shop to get the second one, and without sounding the klaxon, the elevator operator took the elevator up to flight deck level. So now we got about 2,000 pounds of camera and dolly, and we're going out here, and there's no elevator. Luckily the brakes worked, or I'd have been swimming in the South China Sea, even as we speak. And so we got an elevator operator totally fired that night. That's why I told you this story about that. When I retired from SSEP, I became a contractor at Naval Undersea Warfare Center, working on submarine imaging equipment. And if you want some time, I can come back and talk about submarine imaging for you. For the Type 18 periscope, which was developed for the 688 and backfit into the 637 boats, up to photonics mast. How many know about photonics mast? Okay, submarines don't have periscopes anymore, gents. They have a mast that goes into the fair water, and all the sensors are on the top of the mast, which is great because before hanging a camera on the bottom of 44 feet of glass didn't work worth a damn. So, that's my Airedale story.
I was told that at the time that was the largest aircraft that was ever built an aircraft carrier.
Yes, yeah, 66 feet long. It was a big bird. Yes.
Okay, where was the Vigilante manufactured at?
It was manufactured in North American in Columbus, Ohio.
That's right, I was gonna say, I grew up in Columbus, Ohio, and more beautiful bird you never see.
No, it was-
We saw them fly over all the time.
It was fantastic. It had two systems called pitch augmentation and yaw augmentation. And when that bird was coming in for a landing, there were surfaces on that airplane that were constantly moving because it was constantly correcting its flight as it came in. So it was a beautiful airplane to work on, yes.
How long was the Vigilante in service?
It came in service in '62. The last squadron was decommissioned in '79.
One more.
Okay?
I had occasion to see a video done by a flight surgeon. He talked about stress levels in different types of aircraft, patrol squadrons, fighters, whatever. He said that one time he talked to a vigilante pilot, and he said that when he was bringing his aircraft aboard the aircraft carrier at night in bad weather, his stress was so high, he couldn't drive a spike up his butt with a sledgehammer.
That's true. That's true. We said we were unarmed and unafraid. But we also put Phantom for Lunch Bunch on our aircraft because we had the same engines as the F-4, but when they escorted us in Vietnam, they would, quote, dirty, because they had bomb racks and things hanging on the wings where we were clean, and we'd always beat them back to the ship.
Thank you very much, Art.
Thank you.
Well done. I got a story that's almost one of you too.
Uh-oh, that's a lie.
Most of us
That's $15.
Hotels and silent service. Remember that? Yep. Probably quite a few of us here today because of that. I remember watching this on black and white TV, and seeing all these maroons getting sunk and all these ships getting sunk. Then I went to the Daily Center, walked around, see all these pictures, black and white pictures on the wall. All about these maroons getting sunk, all this stuff.
There was secondary.
Took the submarine, go down on a school boat, look through the periscope and it says, holy shit, it's a Technicolor.
Thank you.
Okay.
Was that a joke?
I got it.
Sorry, guys. Woke up.
Fine, I need to stand a little bit, or I can't walk out of here. I have two stories. They're short, they won't be as long as the last one. I was on the USS Guardfish from 1967 to 1971. I did 5 patrols up into the bushes, up in the ice, and those ports around it. But most of this, my exciting adventures happened just outside of Pearl Harbor. In 1968, there was a debate between Admiral Rickover and the Chief of Naval Operations. So I'm told by my division officer and XO at the time. The Chief of Naval Operations wanted every submariner to experience a depth charge that hadn't, meaning us nukes. And Rickover fought it and lost, CNO won. So they scheduled us for a weekly ops out of Pearl, and they scheduled a destroyer escort to come behind us 1,000 yards off our stern and drop a depth charge. Well, something got mixed up in the communications and they dropped it 100 feet off our propeller. They took a big hunk out of the propeller. I was the RO at the time. We were at battle stations and we were buttoned up. Doors not on the latch, but dog. And scrammed the reactor, dropped a turbine off the line. Coolant pumps went from too fast to too slow. And we limped back into the yard very slowly. And that debate cost taxpayers $10 million and 2 weeks in the yard and a new propeller for us. Anybody else been depth charged by their own Navy? Anybody want to speak up?
Make sure they cancel that program.
Well, we don't know if the other 3 boats, the Plunger, the Barb, and so forth, the Flasher went through it, but who knows?
Michael, I got one thing to say.
Yep.
DBF.
I think I'd rather be on my boat than a diesel boat taking a depth charge. You guys, those guys took, by the score. The second one involved he as a base commander for LA Pasadena. I just had brain fade on the second one about the Guardfish. Well, I was base commander at LA Pasadena. I was there for a couple of years. And we had over 200 members, World War II guys and us guys. And some of them were driving 150 miles one way to come to the meeting. So I decided, with the staff's approval, we were gonna take our monthly meetings to other places. We had a monthly meeting at March Air Force Base and a presentation by the general out there on the SR-71, which was on display, which was cool. At that time, I was a Commodore of my yacht club that I belonged to. It wasn't the kind of people in white jackets going, "Another drink, Mr. Kaler?" It was a self-help yacht club, and a member could use any of the facilities. So I cleared it with the staff, and I said, I'd like to bring the sub-vets up, World War II and now, and put it in the magazine, advertise it. We're gonna use it as a fundraiser. We're gonna do hamburgers, hot dogs on the grill with potato salad, much like this. So unbeknownst to me, the club purchased a brand new stainless steel grill. And we had about 75 members come to the club for the lunch. And about 150 of the club members came because they wanted to see these old farts. And I did the cooking, and I put like 75 hamburgers on the grill at once. And it has a tray underneath with water in it to prevent splashbacks. And of course, I didn't go through the valve lineup procedure, and there was no water there. And they all started going at the same time, dropping the fat. And next thing I know, we've got about a 10-foot flame going up the side of the yacht club. My wife was looking out the window, and this World War II guy was standing next to him, who I'll mention in a minute. Stand to him and he says, "Should we call the fire department?" And Mark says, "Nah, he's got damage control experience." Melted all the knobs off the brand new grill, and that cost me $150. And it's known as the Great Fire Outing of Seal Beach. And in mentioning, we just got a letter from Subbase Mark Maynard, who was a World War II vet and retired as a lieutenant, and was just the nicest person you ever want to meet, and his wife passed away. Jan passed away on January 6th, and Mark, with nothing wrong with him, passed away on January 8th. And he was one of the spark plug, in the spark plug division for the Seal Beach, for the LA Pasadena Club.
That's tough.
Yeah, so, thank you.
All right. Working and commissioning the Back to the Future ride, the NBA All-Star Game was in Orlando. So we were having an NBA night event at the park, and I was the technical director that night. So, I just got tagged to do that. So the basketball players were complaining they couldn't get into the cars at Back to the Future. So what I had done during commissioning was I redesigned the front seat of the Back to the Future car so you could take the front seats out. So I get a phone call in my office and get in my golf cart, wander down to Back to the Future, get in there, and there's the CEO, the director of operations, and one of the presidents from another division, and there's Michael Jordan, Shaq, and a few of the other guys standing there, and they said, "We can't get into the car." So I said, "Give us 10 minutes, we'll get the front seat out of the cars and we'll get them flying again." So what I did was, during commissioning, is I redesigned the front seat so you just take ball lock pins, unlock them, take the seat out, and get the front seat in. And we did that for the handicap, so we could put a wheelchair into the car, so we met ADA compliance. But anyway, we got the seat out, and Michael Jordan's watching it. He looks at Tom Williams, who was the CEO at the time, and he goes, "You're probably the big cheese here and the important guy." Michael Jordan comes walking over to me, shakes my hand, and says, "You know what, but you're the most important guy here." And he looked back over at Tom and he said, "I want to be like Mike."
Joel?
In answer to your question about roads being depth charged,
Yeah.
never heard of one being depth charged, but I did and I saw a torpedo launched from an American destroyer, a war shot, at the USS Tusk. I was on the Jaleo. We were up on the deck recovering an exercise torpedo. We were running officer sub-school ops, and the Tusk was with us also. And the Tusk was running target for 2 destroyers. One of the destroyers messed up and fired a war shot at the Tusk. And as soon as they fired the war shot, they realized the mistake they'd made. Got on the UQC, best I can remember, that was a code for it. But anyway, started screaming, war shot in the water, war shot in the water. The Tusk popped to the surface, and us being up there already, we could see the torpedo hit the Tusk right about the area between the maneuvering room and the after torpedo room. It bounced off and then reacquired, and it did this actually 12 times, going all the way around the bow of the boat. The torpedoman on the nest on the destroyer did not have an exploder in the torpedo. And that was the only thing that saved. I had some friends on the Tusk, and the old man was not happy. He called New London. We were just outside the Narragansett Bay. He called New London and said, "I'm coming in, have a car waiting for me at the end of pier number 1. And the Tusk nosed in. We followed them after we got permission to go. And we could see the Tusk nose into the pier, put the bow up next to the pier, and the XO and the CO jumped from the Tusk onto the pier, got in the car, and screamed out of the damn base. And want to understand, they relieved the CO of the destroyer. They busted the torpedoman that was in charge of the nest. It was an E6. They busted him down to, I think, E2, something like that. Then they also got rid of the weapons officer. And that was as close as I could come to see, knowing about a depth charge.
Close enough.
And how would you like to be on the submarine as that torpedo goes clang, clang, 12 times?
Well, I'd open the door and let it in. It's coming that bad.
I was in Hong Kong, and I was on board the USS Rock, SSR 274. And I had the midnight to 4 o'clock watch topside. And when I went up topside, I was told by the cob and the duty officer and everybody, no bumboats alongside. I don't know what the hell I was supposed to do about it, but anyhow, so about 1:30 in the morning, here come a bumboat. And I'm waving at him to get him away, and he kept on coming. And he come alongside, and boy, I'm going to be in trouble. And I look down, here's the CO laying down on his back in the bottom of this bumboat. And I didn't know whether to salute or say rock arriving or what the hell to do. So I said, whenever in doubt, get the duty chief. So I call the duty chief. Well, here come the duty chief, the duty officer, the XO, and cob, and they all come up there. And the captain he didn't want to get out of the boat. He just lay in there and the bilges was flopping back and forth. So I said, I think I need to go back aft and check on some things back there. So I went back and hung around and kept peeking around the corner. And they got the captain up and he was sitting there, but he wasn't he wanted to go on another boat ride. So off he went to Calhoun, the boat, they were rolling away. And we were in Hong Kong for 5 days. And this is about the morning of the fourth day, midnight on the fourth day. I don't know who told who, but next morning about 10 o'clock, we were asked to leave port and don't come back.
I'll bring up a story about them bum boats. We were the first boats Rayton went up the river over there in, whatever port it was up on the river. The first boat we were there in like 20 years. And I was section leader on the boat. My damn watch wakes me up, below that's why he said, "Hey, boss, get up, we got a problem." I said, "What the hell's the problem?" He said, "Well, Mama's son's on the boat, and she ain't gonna leave, and nobody wants to pay her." The whole 2/3 of the crew went on liberty, the third of the crew is still on the boat, and when these bumboats come alongside, they just pulled them up, put them on the boat. And they were scattered all over there, and I had to go back and pass the hat. I said, "Okay, guys, you have your fun, just pay the fiddler now." Took up a collection just to get them off the boat, but that's the kind of shit that went on in diesel boats back then. And we go in some ports and we'd have people just walk off the, if you had a girlfriend over to beer, he brought her on board. He didn't make a damn one. Yeah. But I mean, to get Mama son off of there, she wouldn't about to leave without being paid. Them bump boats were all over there. Bangkok, Thailand was the name of the town we pulled up in. It was something.
Yeah. Right.
The old gray matter kicked in. Along with the torpedo stories and the depth charge stories, a lot of us served on boats who had a namesake, like the Guardfish in World War II was SS-217. How many people know of any of U.S. submarines that sank a U.S. ship? During wartime. The Guardfish sank a 85-foot boat called the Exeter. They were at the end of World War II, and the Guardfish spotted this target on the surface and said, sent a message back to Pearl, said, "Any friendlies in the area?" And they waited about a day while they tracked this boat and or this target, and the reply came back, "No friendlies in the area." And Slackring, CEO of Guardfish, let them have it, sank it, and I think 27 people were dead. It's all in the book called No Unfriendlies in the Area. And the guy who wrote the book, No Unfriendlies in the Area. The guy who wrote the book was a member of LA Pasadena, and he autographed copies for everybody. And that's how I read it. It's in the back part of the chapter. And when you look at it, the Naval Board of Inquiry found that Slackring not guilty or absolved of all responsibility. Because when you look at the profile of an I-class submarine and the profile of the Exeter, through a periscope, you'd be really hard to tell the difference, really hard. So that's my namesake, Guardfish 217. And we had one member from that boat in Pasadena until about 10 years ago.
No, this is it. Last one.
My name is John. I got a camera story. And I'd have off, so I'd drive my car down to New York and get off at White Plains and take the train in, because there's no place to park downtown. Anyway, it was back in the 70s, and the main strip down there was still hot, okay? And I went down there one time, didn't have a lot of extra money, and I knew exactly how much money I needed to get back on the train to get back to my car and have something to eat. That gave me $3. That was all I had left over. And they would have a lot of places where you go upstairs and the girls would be dancing nude and you could take pictures. But I didn't have any film. Film was extra. So I bought the camera. I paid my $4 to get in the club, went upstairs, and the two girls, they said, "You got a camera?" I said, "Yeah." I pulled out a little plastic one, wasn't much to it. And I took about 30 pictures. And the one girl said, "Don't you got to stop and reload?" I said, "No, I ain't got no film." And they said, "Don't worry, I got a picture right up here."
Thanks an awful lot, Jay. It's, hang on to any more stories, whatever, because we've got another social later on this year. I think it's July. One of those months. We're gonna do the 50/50 and the QVC drawings now, so check your
Check my winner.
stubs.
51 for the winner.
White tub.
Later than they were supposed to be.
Yeah.
We got filled up on.
You want that one?
Been later. Same thing happened with the short.
Last four digits, 7702.
Look for that one.
7702?
7702, can't see.
7702?
Hey, where do you got that print?
Oh, let me
She runs
keep
this
your
thing more time than
The short was supposed to be in the 6 on the small.
At least I want.
During World War II. The disclosure was wrong.
Hey, Tom?
And also a couple of mugs here, somebody would need your coffee if I get home, there you go.
There's 2 of them.
Red one.
You win that one, Bob, you're dead.
Last four digits. 5749.
Oh my God.
You went there.
You win that one?
5749.
Okay. You gotta come up and pick up your prize.
Everyone listen, this is kind of special for me. I'm going through the things this morning before you're sitting up there, and I looked at the book. It's saying in the wall, the white one, there's a picture of Will Rogers going to sea. I'm in it.
Buy tickets and win
Who
it.
wants that? Who wants that?
I couldn't believe it. There it was. I got the picture at home, and there's the exact same picture in the book.
Tom.
And I'm on the boat.
Yeah.
Without a safety line, with no film.
John.
Oh, John Ray, oh, John, okay. Quit
So,
talking.
for
Quit
me
talking
to
to
get the
your
book
kids.
out of all these pictures and the one ticket, I just couldn't believe it.
Come. Which one are you gonna pick?
Play the lottery, John.
Okay, there you go.
Take 2 pictures. Have the wait for my flash, slow.
I can flash it for you.
We think you got the answers before.
Okay, appreciate everybody showing up today. I'd like to, John Kelly, thanks for stopping by, and John signed up as a dual member at Tang Base now with Pocono Base up in New York as his record. So John, you're always welcome, appreciate it, thank you very much for coming by.
I was just looking for a bunch of fellow degenerates, thanks, guys.
Well, next meeting, we'll hear from you, okay? All right, all rise. Chaplain?
Heavenly and gracious Father, we thank you for this meeting, the opportunity of us coming together today. We thank you for keeping us safe on the way here, and we hope that you will do the same on the way home. We pray all these things in your name. Amen.
Lend a hand, putting stuff away if you will, please, before you leave.